Hello, my name is Grant Clayton, owner of 1% Lists, and today we're going to talk about mastering the CMA. CMA is the most important skill that you will acquire as a realtor. It is an art form. This will separate a great realtor from a bad realtor. Okay? So, number one, what is a CMA? A CMA is basically an acronym for comparative market analysis. And so a comparative market analysis is all the comparable homes in a market and an analysis of pricing based off of what is active and what is sold. Now then, when creating a CMA, what you're really doing is you're creating a range of variables. And so let's say you have a 10-year-old house that's 3,000 square feet living that is in this neighborhood. Well, then what you can do is you can go and you can search all the homes that are a little bit older and a little bit newer than that house. You can search all the homes that are a little bit bigger and a little bit smaller, and you can search and just kind of narrow down all the possibilities of a range of homes that are similar to that house. And then based off of that, you're going to hone in at a pretty narrow price per square foot. And what we're looking at is a price per square foot living. So if you're talking about 1,000 square foot home, and the range is from $190 a foot to $220 a foot, then you're going to settle in that $200 a square foot range, and that'll give you a sales price of $200,000. And so basically you're working off a range of price per square foot. So once you have all the proper variables, you got the size, you got the age, you have number of bedrooms, you have maybe yard size, amenities, everything with a pool, everything not with a pool, renovated, not renovated, new, not new. Once you have all the important variables laid out in front of you, you're gonna get a list of homes, and you compile all of those homes into what's called a CMA, a comparative market analysis. And this is gonna be what you're armed with to go to meet your new potential client to show them this is roughly what your house is worth. And I say roughly for a reason, because every client is a little bit different. Okay, most clients have a range that they could want to list at, and it's important to have an idea of pricing based off of that range. Now look, it's only common nature for a lot of these people to look and say, oh, well, this house right down the street from mine went for $200 a foot, and so that's what mine should go for. Even though their house isn't in the best shape, and that house is in pristine shape with an in-ground swimming pool and it backs up to green space with a huge yard, they still think they're comparable. So what I personally like to do is I like to combine everything into that CMA, because you can just be prepared that when you walk into that listing appointment, they're gonna say, what about this house? And if you don't have that house included in your CMA, they're gonna think that you're trying to lowball them, or you're trying to kind of put your finger on the scale to some degree. I like to include all the houses that meet that range, even if one of them is way nicer. And then you just pull out your iPad, or have them pull out their iPad and say, okay, look up this house. Do you think your house is truly comparable to that house, or is it realistically a lot nicer than your house? Or is it a lot less nice? And then what you're doing is you're establishing a range, okay? This is the maximum that your house could go for. This is the minimum that your house should list for. And then let's figure out that range and then what your needs are. If you have somebody that's like, look, I got to get out of town, my house needs to be under contract by this weekend, then guess what? You need to pick the lowest realistic list price in order to get a house sold in a few days. But then you get some people that they aren't quite as motivated. You know what? They're still shopping around to figure out where they're going to live next. They're still sorting out a couple of things, and they might want to list their house a little bit above the norm. But it's important not to let them go too crazy. If they're going to a realm where there's no way the house will appraise and no one's even going to go see it, then what's the point of even listing it? But it is important to establish that range and establish roughly where a house should be. And the last thing that I would tell you is just stress to them. It's always easier to price a house accurately and negotiate very aggressively, as opposed to trying to negotiate with an offer that they're never going to get because they're priced way out of the box of where they should be. If they're priced at $600 because they need negotiating room all the way down to $500, they're never getting an offer, okay? It's one thing to price it 2, 3, 4% too high just to see if they can come across a desperate buyer. It's another thing to just be completely unrealistic and to deter activity. So, comparative market analysis. This is the art form for realtors. This is what you must master. And if you're listing as many homes as a 1% list agent should be listing, then you'll master it pretty quick. But this is what separates the amazing realtors from the bad realtors. This is an art form. There is no way to teach this. It's just a skill that you're going to develop, and the better you develop it, the better you will be long-term as an agent. This is Grant Clayton with 1% Lists. Thank you very much.